champion, and if he can make his way to that card, it's going to be huge in this matchup.
Yeah, we talked about it last round when Elspeth was doing battle against Abzan Aggro. We're going to see it try to do so again as we are underway here in round number 6 from Dallas. Gerry's going to start things off with the Temple of Malady. He'll scry and take a look at his hand. Garcia will be on the draw. Gerry's going to leave it on top. And we'll see some action unfold here over the first couple of turns.
Yeah, so there's some extra action going on here in Gerry's hand, which could match. He has 2 copies of Fleece Mainline and a Dromoka's Command. Now, what you need to watch out for when looking at the blue-white deck is the fact that cards like Last Breath can get blanked if Gerry only plays Fleece Mainlines. At the same time, if Steven has Banishing Lights, those Dromoka's Commands suddenly become relevant in the matchup too. There's a lot of things that can go wrong on the control side. That said, once again, if he makes it to Elspeth, all's really forgiven in that situation.
Rashasha Death Dealer there from Thompson. He searched up a forest with his Windswept Teeth. That's why he's at 19. Garcia's at 21 thanks to a Tranquil Cove. He plays an island and just passes the turn back. So this will be a Last Breath. Want to get that off the table. Steven's such a nice guy. Going to give Gerry some life.
Yeah, making sure to do it before Gerry gets to untap so that Gerry can't blank the Last Breath.
There's Air of the Wilds. Pass that turn back. An island is draw here for Garcia. Looks like he already has a copy of Elspeth in hand. So that's the big plan. Just work up to that, and then that's hard for Thompson to beat.
Exactly. See extra lands here. Jace's Ingenuity. 3 copies of Jace's Ingenuity in this deck.
He's got some spicy one-ups, too. He's got a single Aether Spouts, a single Fated Retribution, Ojutai's Command, the one of Last Breath, clearly paying dividends, getting that Rashasha Death Dealer off of the table.
Yeah, so on Gerry's side, did 2 damage, just passed. He is holding up an Abzan Charm. Presumably, he wants to overload Steven's mana to make sure that that card resolves.
Garcia going to sacrifice his Flooded Strand. Now he'll draw a card. Dig Through Time is the draw. Tranquil Cove is a land he'll play. Trigger go up to 19. It looks like Thompson's going to sacrifice his Windswept Teeth. I imagine we'll see a Plains here in just a moment. There's the Abzan Charm.
The thing is that the clock is ticking here for Gerry. Every turn, Steven's getting closer to Elspeth. And right now, at the pace he's going, Gerry is not going to have enough damage on the table when that happens.
Yeah, it's certainly a slow pace, right now for Thompson. 2 cards coming. Now, you see a blue-white control deck, you would expect to see something like Dragonlord Ojutai in the deck, but that's not the case.
Yeah, that is interesting that there's a really powerful blue-white card available in the format, but Steven really with no interest in it.
Here's a thought seize. Gerry wants to get an idea of what his opponent is working with. Garcia looks like he may have some interest in protecting his hand with a Dissolve, and he will. So we'll get the Scry. We'll see where that top card goes. It's very quickly going to the bottom, not what Garcia was looking for.
I like the play. Steven really needs to protect his Elspeth in this situation. He's got lands 5 and 6 already in his hand. A Jace's Ingenuity, a Dig Through Time. His hand is very good.
Here the Wilds is going to get in. Sandsep Citadel was the land, just a passing of the turn. So yeah, Gerry's draw is very slow and plotting.
He's not doing damage fast enough, that's for sure.
There's Polluted Delta, just a passing of the turn. Tom's going to quickly untap and take a draw here.
Dromoka's
Command.
Have a good shot here in that he may have a chance to cast a rated Wingmate Rock. Elspeth not particularly good at answering that. Now, Steven does have 3 copies of End Hostility in his deck. None in his hand just yet.
It doesn't look like Gerry has an untapped 5th land. He's got a Temple of Silence in hand, but no untapped 5th land. That's problematic.
And even then, if Gerry had it, because of the amount of card draw Steven put in his hand, say Gerry had a land and played Wingmate Rock, Steven could end step, Jace's Ingenuity, untap, Dig Through Time. He would have a lot of looks at End Hostilities.
Yeah. Here is an attack and sacrificing a Polluted Delta. So I think we might see a little... I mean, it could be Dig or Jace's Ingenuity, honestly. I think it'll probably be Jace's Ingenuity.
Yeah, I mean, it's better on the mana. He has 5 up. He'll probably want to wait until he has 6 cards in the graveyard for Dig. He's not under too much pressure here.
Part of the reason that Steven Garcia may look familiar to you guys is he did top 8 when we were in Houston during season 1 with blue-white control. So he's a name that flies under the radar. No, not going to find any articles from him. Might only see him when we're in this particular area of the country, but he's making the most of his opportunities as he does draw 3 cards, one of which is a Fated Retribution.
One thing I like about this blue-white control build is a lot of times you're seeing the control decks at the moment kind of do this thing where they have to change game plans from being the defensive deck to the aggressive deck. Steven doesn't seem to do that very often. Sure, you have some Elspeths, but he is always the defensive deck.
Yeah. There is Elspeth Sun's champion. 3 soldiers are going to be coming. Thompson does have Hero's Downfall at the ready. That's mighty important. but he needs to get on that board a little bit better.
Yeah, but even because of the amount of card draw that Steven has, like I said, you know, that was a defensive Elspeth. That wasn't there to kill Gerry. That was there to hopefully stabilize the board. And, okay, so it didn't. Then they go back to the drawing board, but Steven still just has tons of removal, tons of card draw.
Air the Wild's going to trade with 2 of those soldier tokens. Wingmate Rock has been raided, and we'll see if Garcia can handle this.
He does have a Fated Retribution in his hand if he has a 7th mana source.
Oh, there's Nyland. You look for triple white, he has that.
See if he wants to main phase it or end step it. The scry is appealing, but if his hand's good enough, he doesn't need the scry.
And he might think I can get a lot with this.
It's interesting, right? Because to get a lot with it, you either have to be willing to take 6 or you have to hope that Gerry will play something pre-combat.
I think I might be willing to take 6. You're the control player over here. Are you willing to take 6?
14's a big number. 6 is, if I'm at 8, that's triple Siege Rhino territory. It's probably fine. Yeah. Well played, Mr. Garcia.
Well, he's going to take the 6, it looks like. Gerry's going to gain a little bit of life from the Wingmate Rock attack. I'm curious if Gerry's willing to play more threats into this. He's going to play Obzon Charm first.
It's not what Steven was hoping would happen, but...
Draws 2 cards. Wingmate Rock and the Caves of Koilos. Fleece Mainline, Dramoka's Command. All cards that can be played here. Nope, he's not willing to play anything.
Now I'm interested to see if Steven does Fated Retribution. He might dig.
And yeah, he's going to dig.
A Fated Retribution next turn and get the scry.
It's smart by Gerry by not extending into anything. You don't know if Gerry knows about Fated Retribution or not, but he's certainly not willing to commit anything. And by not committing anything, what he's also saying is, I think I might be able to go toe-to-toe with you in a longer game.
At least for a while. Eventually, Steven will overpower him, but I like how both players are playing this here. See, Nullify, looks like it's could be taken by Steven. He does have 3 Radiant Fountains and a Pearl Lake in his list.
So a little life gain package.
Yeah, so going to 8 isn't this permanent sentence.
It's time to untap after that dig through time.
Ideally, Steven finds an end hostilities and just sweeps the board and keeps Dissolve up.
I call that the Jim Davis special. 5+3.
Yeah.
Saw him do it so many times when he was playing this deck at the back end of last year, the beginning of this year. There's a Temple of Enlightenment. Top card going to go to the bottom. Still has Fated Retribution at the ready.
Yeah, if he's priced into playing it, he may as well play it here and get the scry.
Dramoka's Command. Yep. It's an interesting case of how greedy does Steven want to get with this Fated Retribution. Now he's going to cast it. There we go. Everything's going to die. He gets the scry.
Yeah, it is at instant speed, but it is still Steven's turn, so he gets the scry.
Take a draw. Ooh, Thoughtseize is a big draw.
Thoughtseize is big. Steven has a lot of redundancy. He may be able to get through the Thoughtseize.
Yeah, Steven has so many cards in his hand. Jeez. The use of Dramoka's Command there by Gerry is interesting, too, because, you know, we get to look at Steven's deck list. He has Banishing Lights in his deck.
Right, so that could be a resource that Gerry might want in the future.
He'll start by casting Thoughtseize.
All right, so we do see, there you go, the Banishing Light you're talking about.
Make it 2.
2 Banishing Lights, 2 Nullifies, a Dissolve, and an Elspeth.
A pretty good hand.
Not easily broken up.
Ah, man.
If he takes Dissolve, he can punch a hole for a card like Dramoka's Command. And he has non-creature spells.
I think he has to take Elspeth.
Yeah, I mean, the card, that Elspeth is almost, I mean, that is the card that beats Obs on aggro decks.
Yeah. Here's Siege Rhino. Gerry's going to go up to 21. Garcia's going to go down to 5. Now, Steven does have answers.
Yeah, I like where Steven is right now in this game. Looks like Ojutai's Command was the draw.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Thompson sees that coming.
Steven with 3 counter spells for creatures. Now, Gerry does have another Dramoka's Command, and the only way Steven can stop that is as one of Dissolve. Steven, you see, has left up all 5 blue lands. So he can nullify Dissolve in the same turn.
There's a Temple. That Dramoka's Command, I think, is far and away the most important card in Thompson's hand right now. He's going to start by just playing an unrated Wingmate Rock. I'd be surprised if it resolves, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, Steven's hand has so many good one-for-one answers in it, and they're pretty generic, too.
He is going to let that resolve. Maybe he just wants to banishing like that. We'll see. Yeah, okay. And that's actually really smart, I think. It's interesting because by leaving 2 enchantments in play with Dromoka's command, he sacrifices the enchantments. He'd rather sacrifice the one with Wingmate Rock than Siege Rhino, most likely.
Yeah, interesting scry there. Steven had another Nullify on top, opted to put it to the bottom. He's really looking for a card like Dig Through Time or Pearl Lake Ancient.
Thompson's going to play Anafenza. He left that on top. That's going to get nullified. Is it time to try Fleecemane Lion? It is.
That may also get nullified.
Is it time to cast this Dromoka's command?
Probably.
Shields are down.
He knows there's a Dissolve as one of Steven's remaining 2 cards. It means he would get Wingmate Rock. Wow. No, he's going to hold on to it.
A little surprised by that. There's a Plains pass a turn back. Take a draw.
I'm wondering what value Gerry's hoping to get off the Dromoka's command.
That's my question, too. He's going to start with Fleecemane Lion. All right. There's the Ojutai's command.
Just counter draw.
He was hoping that was maybe the Dissolve. You have to imagine, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you always want to get Dissolve out of their hand. It's usually their best counterspell. Not in this case.
Yeah. I think maybe the assumption was, okay, what did you draw? What could it be? He's going to cast Dromoka's command now. This, of course, would be sacrificing enchantment. That's going to get dissolved.
There aren't 2 modes. Oh, you can target Ojutai's.
All right, take a draw.
Oh, actually, so what happened there is because there were no creatures on the board, Gerry couldn't cast the Dromoka's command because without a spell on the stack, only one of the 4 modes is legal. So that's why Gerry couldn't do it before. But now, once Steven had a Ojutai's command on the stack, Gerry could go for Dromoka's command.
Well, Gerry peeled Death Dealer. Now, that's a Radiant Fountain. I don't know if he has enough mana. I got to check here to see if he can pump Death Dealer like crazy at this point. And if he's even willing to go for it. Because I believe Garcia's card in hand right now is just a land. Yep, there's another land for Thompson.
And just goes for the kill.
I think you have to, because you don't want to play any more turns. Man, so he's just going to pump 3 times. Try to deal 8, and that's going to work out just fine. Boy, Gerry Thompson's going to win game number 1 here against Steven Garcia. Abzan Aggro is up a game over blue-white control.
Yeah, you see a little bit of a shake of the head there from Steven. I definitely felt like that was his game plan. He resolved 1 Jace's Ingenuity and 1 Dig Through Time, and you might say that's a lot. Remember, he's playing 4 Digs and 3 Ingenuities. If he finds he needs to find 1 more of those, one of his other 2 Elspeths or his Pearl Lake. I feel like there were a lot of situations where Steven finds a card to pull that game away, and he didn't hit any of them.
Well, he's going to go to the sideboard, and we'll do the same here. He's got a Glare of Heresy, a Faded Retribution, another copy of Ojutai's command, 2 Erishan Clerics, 2 Burmaz King of Oreskos, 2 Negate, 2 Perilous Vault, 2 Disdainful Stroke, a Stratus Dancer, and a Devouring Light. What do you like there?
Well, you just kind of want the clean removal if you can upgrade some of it. I like Glare of Heresy quite a bit. Faded Retribution seems not so bad. Sweepers were good here, but I'm not sure if he wants another 7-mana sweeper. He's already pretty good on that front. Devouring Light is probably an upgrade on some of his removal, as it's pretty good at taking care of cards like Rakshasa Death Dealer.
Would have been nice there.
Yeah, another Ojutai's command. I liked how Ojutai's command played out that game. It was a little bit expensive, but that's fine. I don't really want to go to a plan like Burmaz or any sort of creatures in this matchup. I think game 1, that's how Steven wants this match to play out. That went according to plan for him. It didn't get there. You got to shake that off and just do it again.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if the games consistently go like that and he draws a Dig Through Time or a Jace's Ingenuity or what have you, and Elspeth on that board, he's going to win.
Right.
So we'll take a look at Gerry's sideboard now.
Over on Gerry's sideboard, first of all, 2 copies of Duress. Well, against a 32 spell deck, that seems like a pretty big slam dunk. So he'll go for the 2 Duresses to be sure. 2 copies of Tassiger seems pretty reasonable here. Also, he has a Nissa Worldwaker in the sideboard that I imagine he'll go to. Outside of that, what I'm interested to see is whether or not Gerry goes for these 2 copies of Glare of Heresy. I imagine he's going to board out cards like Dromoka's command here, and Glare still takes care of Banishing Light. So Glare seems reasonable, and that to me seems like most of the sideboarding that Gerry will do.
Okay. Well, these players are going to shuffle up here for game number 2. Garcia will be on the play. We'll quickly take a look at our Season 2 schedule here on the Open Series. There's only a couple of dates left as we're here in Dallas right now.
Yeah, you see the top one. That's this weekend. So we have next weekend. It's a Legacy Open in Worcester. You'll be covering that one along with Patrick Sullivan. Then we'll take a break. That's going to be GP Vegas weekend. And Then we go to our first ever Modern Invitational. That's June 5th through 7th at the Columbus Game Fair. We will punch 2 more spots into the Players' Championship. That's going to be the winner of that event and then the winner of the Season 2 race, which is going on this weekend.
Yeah, what a race it is. Now, don't forget, during Season 2, you can get yourself the Polar Punch playmat. Unfortunately, the last time you can get it is actually at Worcester. So if you're going to be there, it's obviously very lucky for you. But if not, that's the last chance to get it. It's available at Open Series competitors until May 23rd. Free, limited edition. You come, you sign up, you're going to get one of those bad boys. Now, Season 3, as you take a look at the artwork there for Season 2 playmat, we'll have another one coming out for you guys for Season 3. No details yet. Don't want to spoil it just yet, but trust me, you're going to like it. You can pick it up at the Season 2 Invitational, kind of kick off that weekend with our Season 3 events.
I like that, kind of the iconic art of the last block. Savage Punch, Epic Confrontation, and then Polar Punch.
Yeah. Whoever's idea that was, the Savage Punch artwork, it's pretty sweet.
Guy punching a bear.
Yeah, just giving the beatdowns.
And he's punching a dragon in the other one, right?
Yeah, an Epic Confrontation, I like that. We are underway here in game number 2. Tranquil Grove will bring Garcia up to 21. He'll play an island, pass the turn back over to Thompson, who started with a Land War Waste. Picked up a Windswept piece for the turn. We'll see if he's got a turn 2 play or not. He will sacrifice the Heath.
And Blue-White Control, another deck, kind of like when we saw Abzan Control last round, that tries to beat Abzan aggro just by 1-for-1ing and casting Elspeth. This, to me, this seems similar in that I think will be a matchup that Steven would want to be playing.
I think so. I don't think this is a matchup where, I mean, first of all, if you're playing in a standard tournament right now, you know you're going to play against Abzan aggro at least once, probably twice.
Right.
So you'd better have a deck that's at least competitive against it. And I think his deck is very competitive against it.
Well, first of all, you have Elspeth, which is probably the singular best card against Abzan aggro. So big fan there. What I like about it is that cards like Rakshasa Death Dealer that can be problematic for black control decks aren't too big of a problem for Steven. You look at his removal spells, there are things like Banishing Light, Devouring Light. All those interact just fine with the Death Dealer.
Here comes the Death Dealer right now. No pumps. Take 2. What's the follow-up going to be? It's going to be a Painful Anafenza. We'll see if that resolves. It looks like it's probably not going to. Garcia going to sacrifice his Flooded Strand.
Yeah, he does need to keep trading here. There is a tension between leaving up counter spells and then using cards like Devouring Light, which I don't think the black version has because you can cast Hero's Downfall whenever. I could see the card Devouring Light getting stuck in Steven's hand sometimes.
Dissolve going to take care of that Anafenza. There's a Radiant Fountain. Gain a little bit of life here.
I do really like that aspect of Steven's deck. It's interesting because this is kind of a previous level Blue-White, the Radiant Fountain and Pearl Lake Ancient package. You would expect most control decks now to be playing Havens and Ojutais instead, especially for a Blue-White deck.
Yeah, with access to Dracula Ojutai, you would certainly expect that. Maybe even an Ugin tossed in somewhere. Little scry action here. Top card going to go to the bottom. The follow-up is a Fleeceman line. That's going to get hit with a Nullify.
Yeah, Nullify a card we don't see too much of, but it's powerful. In the absence of Silumgar's Scorn, it does just fine.
Devouring Light is a nice draw here. It's the old Ravnica ugly Devouring Light.
Do you like the new one more?
I think so. Well, the nice thing is that the Ravnica one, the picture is so so easy. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's a demon, and he's getting banished.
I can tell it from a mile away. That's for sure.
Well, it's very bright. It's supposed to be.
There's the new one. I think I like the new one more. It's pretty close, though, actually.
I kind of like the old quirky arts on cards where you just, the ones are like, wow, yep, that's Devouring Light. You know, you remember those ones.
It's very clear what's happening here. There's a land, there's a Siege Rhino.
Yeah, Steven has kept his copy of Aether Spouts in. That's a card that I never know what I think about it. It has its moments.
I love it. I am the biggest fan of Aether Spouts because it's a card that no one ever plays around. Because it's just not a card that's ubiquitous in the format. So as a result, it's just like, all right, tackle all my stuff. Oh, God.
But if they do play around it, it's not even good.
It's actually pretty bad then. But it's so rare for people to play around it. And also you can get yourself in situations where you're trying to play around it and they don't have it. You know? Why are you attacking with one creature? I don't have anything.
Steven continues to play lands as Gerry develops his board. And this is the trap, right? Now he has the Aether Spouts trap has been set. Let's see if Gerry, there we go. There's the 2-for-1. He's got to pull the trigger.
I don't think you can pass up doing this.
It does mean Gerry gets Gerry gets to have a turn at resolving something, but Gerry's hand actually has multiple copies of Glare of Heresy in it. Let's see where Gerry decides to put these cards.
And Spout's going to resolve. You saw Gerry pick up the 2 cards and shuffle them around. He doesn't want to give away any information. If you just take the Siege Rhino, you turn it face down and put it on top of your deck and take the Death Dealer and put it on the bottom, then your opponent knows what you've done with the cards.
That's a pretty savvy thing. I'm not sure I've actually played against Aether Spouts enough to just like automatically make that play.
Yep.
But you're absolutely right.
It might seem minor, but you want to conceal as much information as possible. It's something I actually see Reed do a lot when he's playing with the deck. When he casts a Brainstorm, maybe the opponent's seen his hand, he draws his card and then he shuffles his hand around just to kind of, mix up the information a little bit. Just don't want to give anything away if you don't have to. So here's another copy of Siege Rhino.
What Steven's doing, personally got a 2-for-1 there. Now he's buying enough time that he can play Devouring Light while leaving up a counter spell.
And he did draw Nullify for the turn. Here's that. There is Devouring Light. There's Siege Rhino. I think we're going to see the Nullify now. Yep, this is exactly what he wanted to have happen.
And I want to point out something. This is something that I think Gerry, not knowing his opponent's list, has done. He's boarded in his copy of Self-Inflicted Wound, expecting that Steven surely Steven has Ojutai in his deck.
You're a blue-white deck. Why wouldn't you have Ojutai in your deck?
Right, but Jerry's boarded in a card that's actually just dead here.
Mm-hmm. There's Perilous Vault.
I mean, unless you want to talk about killing Elspeth tokens, but that's...
I don't want to.
I don't think he boarded it in for that. He boarded it in for the Ojutais that aren't here.
I don't want to talk about killing that Elspeth tokens and Self-Inflicted Wound. No, I do not want to have that conversation.
I mean, maybe you just want a lava spike effect. Just want to go upstairs.
Well, there's
Not
a pump.
really.
There's a pump. There's Perilous Vault. Going to clear everything away. Garcia's at 5. That's where he might be able to stabilize. Picked up a copy of Event Hostilities. Thompson will draw. Mana Confluence in hand.
Nissa World Waker in his hand as well.
Yeah, that's the big haymaker.
Yeah, and he got rid of Perilous Vault, which is good. Now, Perilous Vault still doesn't get rid of the elemental tokens that Nissa could make. But
there's a Nullify.
Because Steven is relying on cards like Nullify so heavily, his deck is actually liable to be left without an answer to Planeswalkers. The blue-white control outside the Banishing Lights is not good at dealing with Planeswalkers.
Dissolve was a pretty big draw there for Garcia that turn. You see his hand. He's got End Hostilities and Fated Retribution. I think we're going to see Dissolve.
You have to.
You have Fated Retribution.
Okay.
But you are short a land at this point, so I think you have to Dissolve. Yeah, okay.
This isn't a terrible use of a Dissolve either.
No, not really.
Most cards, you can Retribution the next card, and it will probably work.
Yeah, now that he's drawn the 7th land, he certainly can. Thompson's going to draw a card.
The issue be if Jerry's next card is a Fleece Mane Lion. That's a situation where or Death Dealer, then it's awkward.
Yeah. Here's Abzan Charm. 2 cards coming. We assume, yes. Look like just a couple of lands. It's weird to say that Gerry may have over-sideboarded here, but I think he's just assuming that, Self-Inflicted
I
Wound.
would assume that Ojutai is in my opponent's deck. It's weird, Now, granted, if he saw Pearl Lake Ancient, maybe he would think Ojutai is not there.
But he didn't see it.
He didn't see it. And even then, they might just be in the board, and Steven would probably board them in here. Boarding in Ojutai against Abzan seems pretty good.
Devouring Light is the top card. It's going to go to the bottom from the Temple of Enlightenment. We head back Thompson's way. He'll draw a card. It's a Temple of Silence. He'll play that. He'll scry. Top card stays on top past the turn back.
And these games are kind of repeating themselves here for Steven. He's getting ahead, but he's not finding his... He's done a terrible job of finding his finishers.
Yeah, that's been the big issue, right?
Or card drawers. And Death Dealer, this is a problem.
Yeah, it's going to get countered.
It has to get countered.
Scry. There's a card drawer. Finally. It's a copy of Jace's Ingenuity. That'll be his draw step. Thompson will draw.
Remember, this is a card that Thompson had kept on top, so...
3 cards coming. Ingenuity's done resolving. Garcia will draw a card. Radiant Fountain, one of the lands in hand. Perilous Vault's going to come down. That's an answer to another card.
And you like the patience on Steven's side, not really going for Jace's Ingenuity too quickly. He even had Encroaching Wastes there. He could have played it to leave up a possible Jace's Ingenuity, but no, he's going to go ahead and... Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So he's just going to go, going to play Temples. Here's Encroaching Wastes. Now, there aren't too many utility lands in the format, but...
A little surprised to see that hanging out.
Yeah.
Don't see that a lot. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, is that a...
That's it's an Evolving Wilds. Yeah, I was thinking it was Encroaching Wastes, too.
Those are very... Yeah.
Yep.
Those are very similar arts. That was from... Yeah, we don't get... That's from M14.
There we go. Wow.
There we go.
Those are horribly similar.
You go back, because Encroaching Waste is a card that Blue White Control did play.
Yeah.
But
there's a Tranquil Cove. Gain a life, up to 5. To rest the draw. Okay, so... Well, Elspeth the draw here for Garcia. That's actually pretty big. Gonna play another Cove. I understand what Gerry's trying to accomplish here. He wants to fire off a bunch of spells in one turn. Like, he wants to lead off with a discard spell, which is this Duress.
all right, so setting up for a big turn.
Yep.
All right, so what has been acquired in the meantime? 2 Fated Retributions, an End Hostilities, a Radiant Fountain, and an Elspeth Sun's Champion. A lot of sweepers. And the Elspeth. Elspeth's not long for this one.
I believe that is what Gerry will select.
Well, if he can get rid of Elspeth, all he needs to land is one card like a Death Dealer or a Fleece Mane, and they're good. Well, outside of the I mean, he needs to go 1 to get rid of the Perilous Vault, and then the second one works.
Yeah, he's got to plow through so much stuff now.
Yeah, and the problem is, in the meantime, if Steven is able to draw a card drawer, then everything. A lot of ways this goes wrong for Gerry.
And Hostilities is going to just trade 1 for 1. Glare of Heresy was the draw.
You want to talk about the over sideboarding thing? Yeah, Gerry here with Glare, and Self-Inflicted Wound in his hand. That's the kind of issue that happens to these decks game 1.
See, this is something where I think Steven really gets a real advantage on things, is because he's been playing his deck basically forever, right? You have to imagine, like he top 8 at Houston with this deck. He's been playing these Dig Through Time decks for some time now. So it wouldn't surprise me if when he sideboard, he's like, okay, I'm playing Blue White Control. People think I'm playing Ojutai, and I'm not, so people are going to sideboard for that card. And then people might be thinking I'm leaving my Banishing Lights, and I'm certainly not. Like, your deck has Dromoka's Command in them. So, you know, I don't have that effect. Now, that's not all that Glare kills, obviously. Glare kills Elspeth, too. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's why you see Steven doing what he's doing here, is Gerry is actually drawing a Tassiger, which is pretty timely in this situation.
Yeah, so he's going to go for Tassiger here. And because Steven... I'll see if Steven wants. He probably has to nullify this. I don't think he can, if he has the option.
Yeah, he doesn't have the nullifier
anymore.
No, the
nullifier's gone now.
It's been hit by a Thoughtseize.
And so he has these instant speed kill spells like the Perilous Vault and the Fated Retribution, but Gerry's going to net a lot of cards here.
Yeah, he's got enough mana to activate Tassiger twice. That's effectively him drawing 2 cards. And that's 2 more cards Garcia's going to have to slog through.
Yeah, it's going to be a 3-for-1 for Gerry.
So he's going to activate Tassiger once. Turn over 2 cards. Anafenza and Atlanta War Waste.
So it gives him the Anafenza.
And now the next one. Siege Rhino Hero's Downfall.
Looks like he'll probably give him the Hero's Downfall.
Yeah, probably. Yep. Now we've got a Scry.
Yeah, Gerry hoping to hit a little more lands off that flip. The stuff he left in the graveyard was all more powerful than the stuff he got to keep.
Keep in mind that Fated Retribution was on the upkeep there for Garcia, so that he could scry before he drew. He put 1 card on top, 1 card on the bottom from the scry, drew that card, passed the turn back. So what Gerry's trying to do here is just slog through everything that Steven has. That means he's got to slog through a Perilous Vault, got to slog through that other copy of Fated Retribution. He'll start by casting an Anafenza, pass the turn back. That's a Dig Through Time. That's timely there for Garcia.
That's the card that Steven kept on top. Can he find his Pearl Lake Ancient? Has an Elspeth, but he knows there's a Hero's Downfall in Gerry's hand. See what kind of priority he puts on it.
Yeah, Elspeth, Gerry has kind of overloaded his sideboard to be able to beat Elspeth, which Abzan Aggro needs to be able to do. It has made some of his draws a little bit awkward, almost into virtual mulligans at this point, because he's been holding Glare of Heresy for a while. The Hero's Downfall is not all that useful, but at the same time, you have to have an answer for Elspeth, or you just flat lose to it.
What I like here is that Steven didn't even take Elspeth off the Dig Through Time. It's a really keen observation on his side that he may realize what's going on Gerry's side.
There's another Dig Through Time. So now he's chaining them together.
Okay. He just has eyes for the Pearl Lake Ancient at this point. And Hostilities, another dig, another counter spell.
Magic players, this is a friendly reminder.
Yeah, this is an interesting game. I think he's found the Pearl Lake too.
Well, it does look like the Pearl Lake Ancient is here.
If you have not turned in your voucher to get your play mat, we'll be happy to get
And I imagine we'll see Gerry go to some recycling. At this point, if I'm Gerry Thompson, I haven't seen any Haven. Ones that haven't seen any Havens yet. I don't think Ojutai's in Steven's deck anymore.
Well, so he didn't take Pearl Ancient. He's going to keep just trying to outcard advantage him.
So greedy, but I like it.
I think
doesn't even need it yet.
I think I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
He's going to draw 3 more cards. He's just stocking his hand up. He's going to draw 3 more cards. He's really stocking his hand up. All right. He took 4. He went down to 5. He's drawn 100 cards, has 100 cards in hand, and all Gerry can do is sit here and wait patiently. There's an island.
Devouring Light, yeah, discarding a land.
Discard another land.
2 of them. Dig through time. This is sweet. Perilous Vault in play.
Oh, now you're getting on board.
This is, I mean, I like the number of card drawers he's running. That's excellent.
There's Devouring Light. It was unclear if he was going to be able to run Gerry out of resources or not, but now it seems like he's going to be able to. Now here's Thoughtseize.
That'll probably get the negate.
Yep. Going to protect his hand with the counterspell.
Gerry, after seeing Steven draw that many cards from Gerry, I'm just dumping his hand on the table.
Hey, dump as much as you can. I was on turn, we're going to draw 2 cards. I think he picked up 2 lands.
I agree. And you see just a bunch of cards like Glare of Heresy in his hands. It's Hero's Downfall, Glare of Heresy, Self-Inflicted Wound, perhaps Dromoka's Command.
He's really reactive right now. There's another Anafenza. Another Dig Through Time.
You know, if Steven finds the Pearl Lake Ancient, it means we're looping through the same cards for a second time.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take a look at his graveyard here.
Yeah, he cast it. I think Gerry said, hey, make sure you exile for that.
Yep. This is interesting. You mentioned if we do see Pearl Lake Ancient again, that means he's looped through his deck. And his deck is pretty small at this point. My question is, you know, it seems like this game is in Steven Garcia's favor at this point. I'm not saying he's a lot to win, but it seems like things are going in his favor at this point. Not sure if Gerry has any interest in the concession. That's a very quick keep with the Temple.
I think we're all the way back to Pearl Lake.
I mean, we're getting close. His deck is not very big. Gonna play Elspeth now, probably. Okay. 3 soldier tokens.
He knows there's a Hero's Downfall in Gerry's hand. Be interested to see whether or not Steven wants to fight over it.
And Gerry's got a lot of discard in his deck after sideboard. Might be correct to just continue to play on. There's Dissolve. Gonna leave that card on top. He already knows what it is. Glare of Heresy's gonna go after Elspeth. Yep.
Gerry with no shortage of answers to Elspeth in his hand.
Yeah, that's not the problem. Devouring Light's gonna be convoked. There goes Anafenza. These 3 soldiers might just be able to mop things up.
I think Gerry at this point, he's going to look through Steven's. He's looking through Steven's graveyard and kind of coming up with a board plan in his mind for game 3.
I mean, this is kind of interesting too because Garcia's at 5, so we can see Self-Inflicted Wound put you down to 3 and then peel Siege Runner to kill you.
Yeah, and that's what Gerry's going to do. Self-Inflicted Wound will kill one. Steven goes down to 3. But if that top card is Pearl Lake Ancient, then Steven's going to be able to start picking up Radiant Fountains.
There's a land in Sandstorm Citadel, pass the turn back. Garcia's going to quickly untap and take a draw. That's a Pearl Lake Ancient. He's counting already.
If Steven was really worried about Self-Inflicted Wound, he could have Perilous Vaulted in response to that Self-Inflicted Wound. Yep. And then if he doesn't actually sacrifice a creature, he doesn't take 2.
He's up to 5 now. Attack for 2, pass the turn back. Thompson will draw.
All 3 of Garcia's fountains are in play.
Now remember, Thompson does have a copy of Hero's Downfall in his hand, but Garcia knows that. Glare of Heresy's going to take down a soldier token. There's Pearl Lake Ancient. Quick untap and take a draw. There's an attack. It's not a lethal one. It's close. It's an attack for 7. There's Hero's Downfall, going to go after the Ancient. Probably the fountains, maybe temples.
It's like it's going to be Temple, Fountain, Fountain.
If those are the lands that he'll pick up to save the Pearl Lake Ancient.
Taps them and floats mana and recasts Pearl Lake.
And now he's going to recast it.
think we're just making sure that the phases worked correctly here. Yeah, what do you want? Yeah, he floated the mana.
It depends how he announced everything.
Yeah, it looks like maybe that he's not going to get to use that mana in combat. That will be an inconvenience, but I don't think it will change the outcome.
I would be surprised if it did. So 1 damage is going to come across, of course. Temple, top card's going to go to the bottom, pass the turn back. Thompson will draw.
Yeah, Gerry checking the clock here.
Yep.
He knows he's not getting this one.
Yeah, he's just curious if he has enough time for game number 3. He's going to concede this game. Garcia's basically got this one locked up. It's basically inevitable at this point. So we're all tied up here with about 14 minutes left to go. I imagine with the match, we'll have about 12.5 minutes. Maybe a little more, maybe a little bit less. See how Thompson wants to sideboard here, because now that he's seen Pearl Location and you haven't seen Haven the Spirit Dragon, as you did mention, it's probably safe to assume no Dragon Lord Ojutais.
Well, Steven looped through his whole deck. I mean, Gerry's got to know that. He watched it happen. Ojutai never showed up.
Yep.
Now, to be fair, Gerry never got to, from very early on, he never resolved one of his Duress or Thoughtseize effects. So it was possible that Ojutai would be hanging out in Steven's hand the whole game. Gerry never had confirmation that it wasn't there. But I don't think Gerry's respecting Ojutai anymore.
No, I think it's appropriate to take him off of it at this point. I mean, it's easy for us to say, we got the deck list in front of us, but I think that he will probably come to that conclusion. And truthfully, I really think that Steven Garcia has probably got an edge on people over the past handful of months, and certainly in this tournament, by not having Dragon Lord Ojutai in his deck and people assuming that he will.
Yeah, there would, I mean, the big thing is that if he had it in the deck, there would have been a Haven. You know, it's very hard to think that Steven could run Ojutais without running any copies of Haven of the Spirit Dragon.
Yeah.
You just have one or two.
All right, game number 3 going to be underway in just a moment here for you guys at home, but we'll quickly talk about the Star City Games YouTube page, which you can subscribe to. A lot of cool stuff going on over there. Some of it we publish on the website, some of it we don't. We've got Versus videos. We've got premium archives to the Versus videos. We've got a Versus series, Commander, Brad versus Todd, BBD. You got Tom Ross in there, CVM. Some of your favorite personalities. Of course, the Open Series archive. So if you want to go back and watch the matches, like Gerry Thompson right now playing against Steven Garcia later, or any of the events from Portland or Invitationals. And then we do unboxings as well of brand new sets or old sets, and more content coming as well. YouTube.com/StarCityGamesVideo. Feel free to subscribe. That'll give you notifications via email when we upload brand new content. You can expect to find the archives of this particular event, for example, within the middle of the coming week. So I know some people are going to miss it. Some people want to rewatch the matches, like Todd Anderson versus Steve Mann a little bit earlier. Star City Games Video on YouTube for more information. Who do you think the favorite is here?
I like Steven in this matchup. It's been a while since we've seen a blue-white controlled deck, or just any deck in Standard play out like this. It feels like last season's Revelation decks, where the priority is always draw cards first, win the game second. I mean, you saw at one point Steven shipping the Pearl Angel to the bottom of his deck just to go so he could draw more cards and go through. He'd be like, yeah, I'll get it on the second time around.
Yeah, that's when you got on board.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen any decks in Standard do that yet. You can oftentimes describe a deck in terms of, when does it... So what life total are you looking at? When does it throw the switch? You start a game by looking at your own life total, and then at some point you start caring about your opponents instead. And the thing is about these Revelation, these blue-white decks, is they almost never do. Like, for Steven, there's one number in the game, and that's his own life total, and his opponent's life total never enters the equation. Look at Esper Dragons. At some point, Esper Dragon starts looking at both halves of the life pad, but Steven doesn't. And even blue-black, to a point, starts winning the game, but this is excellent. Yeah, this is always defense.
Yeah, your mono defense, always. And I'll win eventually.
I like to say, if your goal is to not lose, and if you succeed in not losing for long enough, then by default, you won.
That's how you like to play Magic.
I like having one game plan a lot. So if my game plan is assemble this combo, go, that works too. Or don't lose.
I like to be proactive. I like to just try to win. I've never taken the don't lose game
I
plan.
actually respect mono red aggro and burn. I like those decks as well because they also have one game plan, which is, I talk about which life total you're looking at. Mono red, the answer is yours, only yours.
Yes.
Only your opponent's.
I don't care about mine.
Ever. Abzan aggro cares about its own life total sometimes. It's stuck in that middle range where you have to look at them both.
Yeah, what a horrible deck.
I I only have, see, it's really because I have one giant D20 that I play with, and I don't have a second one, so I can't play decks that need both life totals.
I see. I understand now. Both players are going to start off with temples. Thompson with no 2-mana play. He's got 10 in his deck, but he hasn't found one here. Garcia with an island, and he'll pass the turn back, so Nullify is a card that's online right now. Thompson's going to sacrifice his Windswept Teeth. A 4-sword Plains on the way here for Gerry as he goes down to 19. It'll be a Plains.
I don't know how Gerry sideboarded for this game, but that is a good situation for Steven. Gerry can trap Steven in a situation where Steven can't ever use his Devouring Lights if he just keeps playing creatures on curve. Because if Steven Devouring Lights, Gerry gets to resolve another card. That said, now that Gerry didn't have a turn 2 play, Steven right there is sniping the 3 drops with a 2-mana spell.
That's where he wants to be. There's a Polluted Delta, pass the turn back. Thompson will draw. Hero's Downfall. There's a land. Will he try to cast Siege Rhino? He'll play Anafenza. Looks like this is going to get countered too.
See what kind of counterspell he has to use. The dissolves are at a premium for Steven. They're the universal answers.
Yeah. Dissolve will resolve. Will scry. Top card goes to the bottom. Pass that turn back. Garcia will draw. It's a copy of Tranquil Cove.
I was interested to see, it does not look like Garcia this match went for the Ojutai's commands. We went through almost his whole deck without seeing one. He has one main, one board. I presumed he would board up on them, but it looks like he has gone down on them instead. Like he's at 0 instead of 2.
Here's Siege Rhino. That'll get dissolved as well. You mentioned dissolve being at a premium, and he's had to cast 2 of them.
Yep. So that, in a way, that's a win for Gerry. However, at almost all routes here, Steven is paying less for the counterspells than Gerry is for the threats.
Thompson will draw a card. Now, what Gerry is trying to set up for, as he's casting a Thoughtseize, you can tell he is trying to set up really hard for the Nissa that's in his hand.
He's gotten rid of a lot of dissolves with threats. Now he's going to try to Thoughtseize the remaining ones.
Yep. Here's Anticipate.
And Nissa's a great card to punch a hole for because its Planeswalkers are a weakness for blue-white control.
Yeah.
I mean, Nissa, when it makes turns a land into a 4/4, also plays around cards like Perilous Vault. The only clean answer Steven has to Nissa Worldwaker is Fated Retribution or Dissolve.
And this is Dig Through Time in response to Thoughtseize as well.
Players Jeff Noble and Brady Booth.
This Dig Through Time does not. That might be 7 lands.
He's just getting all lands for the Thoughtseize.
I mean, that might be 7 lands that he saw with Dig Through Time. Yeah, because he took 2. Yeah, that was 7 lands. Here's his hand: Nullified, Devouring Light, 2 Radiant Fountains, and a Tranquil Cove.
The dig. That was actually 7 lands off of Dig Through Time.
Yeah, that was not good.
They aren't even scry lands. Ugh.
You're in pain right now. I understand.
I mean, I feel for him in this situation. You've been there as a control player. It's horrible.
Devouring Light was a selection. Nullify is a card Steven is stuck with, which allowed Gerry to slide into Tassiger.
It's like when you Sphinx's Revelation into 5 lands, and you think, like, man, I might lose. And I revved for 5.
But then you draw a rev and then they die.
Well, yeah, if you draw a rev, that's fine. That's why the card's amazing. And Steven draws a Dig Through Time. Dig Through Time is not Sphinx's Revelation.
No, it's not.
At first, we wished it was. As you know, you tried to build the same decks, and you realized it wasn't the same card.
Tassiger's going to get activated here. Turn over 2 cards. Ugh.
I like what Gerry's doing. He's just going to continue activating Tassiger until Steven does something about it. I don't even know if he'll make another threat.
Here's Downfall and Glare of Heresy, the cards that were turned over. Here's Downfall's going to go back. See if Thompson wants to add to his board more. He's going to start by attacking. That'll work.
And the danger is that Steven's being caught with counter magic in his hand, and Gerry's just creating card advantage.
And Knobs on Turn is going to draw 2 cards. Sandstep Citadel, pass that turn back. Jace's Ingenuity is the draw.
All right, that's what Steven wants. It's good.
Does he want to cast it now? Looks like the answer is yes. He will.
Yeah, some of his answers are sorcery speed. If he finds something like Banishing Light, then he'll want to do it now, which looks like he has found Banishing Light.
Looks like maybe he bored those back in.
Just bait and switching on Gerry. Now, he doesn't know Gerry's kept in some number of Glare of Heresy. He sees one in the graveyard.
Yep.
Can't be certain that this will work, but I think it is gonna. Maybe now Gerry, he has gotten Steven tapped out. Maybe it's Nissa time.
Yeah, the question is land 6 untapped? I don't think it is, though it is still Nissa time.
It still puts a lot of pressure on Steven to have Fated Retribution to deal with this board.
There's a Temple of Silence, top card. Gonna stay on top, pass that turn back. Take a draw. Jason's Ingenuity.
What's nice is that if he does find Fated Retribution, which he does have, Gerry now will have to sit here next turn and decide if he wants to activate a second land. It's gonna be a real decision because he knows the Retribution is there too.
Yeah, what's interesting about this, however, is, you know, Fated Retribution, it's the card that Thompson has to play around at this point, but it's, well, never mind. How about a discard spell? Okay. I was going to say, you know, this weird jockeying for position. But
yeah, now he'll do it.
It's not as much anymore. And
Gerry's pretty savvy. I doubt Gerry would have activated another land and ran into that. If he had, I mean, that would be a huge boon for Steven. It's the kind of thing that game one you'd really get people on.
Yeah.
If you signed up for Commander Pod 10,
going to add some mana. Take a look at the hand. Dissolve, Jason's Ingenuity, Nullify, and a land.
Yeah, Mystic Monastery.
Yep. A little bit of color fixing there. No red spells.
You know, it's kind of been that standard in these control decks. We're seeing, you know, blue-black run one Opulent Palace. Blue-white, I guess, has to run one Mystic Monastery. You are trying to hit Nullify on turn 2 in a deck with a lot of colorless mana.
Here's Knobs on Charm. Peel 2. Thoughtseize among the cards. Sandstep Citadel.
This is such a scary spot for control. The fact that these obs on decks just go up to so many Thoughtseizes, Duresses, and then read the Bone style effects. It is a way you can get attacked.
There's Thoughtseize. That's going to clear the path.
You always counter the Thoughtseize, especially when you're heavy on lands, which is where Steven's at.
Mm-hmm. Take a look at the top card. It's an island.
No. He has found so many of those things.
You don't want any of those, huh?
The bottom of Steven's deck has got to be like 9 straight lands right now.
I actually think it might be. Death Dealer is cold. Tassiger's in. Garcia has 1 card in hand. It's an island.
But it's big. There's a big draw for Steven coming up.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Gerry wants to get Glare out of there. There's already a Tassiger under a Banishing Light. Just leaving Death Dealer, Siege Rhino, and Nissa.
Yeah, he wants threats.
Yep.
Doesn't really care about card drawing or discard anymore. Now he just wants to hammer away with some threats.
Can he hit a threat? It is a Nullify from Steven. That's not going to do it.
Well, Thompson will take a draw. He'll play a Plains in with Tassiger. Garcia's going to go down to 13.
These 2 sideboarded Tassigers that Gerry's brought in have been huge.
They're really good. Really, really good.
Every turn that Steven doesn't find an answer, it costs him 1, or it's going to start costing him 2 cards.
Tasker activation, 2 lands. Pick a card, any card.
2 lands was great. Now Gerry gets back. Yeah, it's probably Siege Rhino. I was going to say, it's probably going to be the Siege Rhino.
The most expensive card?
No, it's the card that's most easily dealt with. A lot of your answers for Tassiger also deal with Rhino.
Okay.
There, you know, you don't have a card that cleanly, I guess, right, Fated Retribution cleanly answers the Nissa, but
negate the draw. Thompson gonna activate Tassiger again. Fleecebane Lion, Obzon Charm. Gonna give Nissa back. Has a negate for that, so it makes sense.
Yep.
Here's Tassiger again, puts you down to 5.
Unless Gerry draws a Duress, which could happen.
You're just gonna play another 2-drop.
Steven just has to keep countering things.
Yeah, I really like the way that Gerry's playing these particular turns, which is play a spell, activate Tassiger. Play a spell, activate Tassiger. Just keep doing that. Elspeth the draw.
So what I like about this right now from Steven's side is that he can play this Elspeth and now hold up negate not for Nissa, but for Hero's Downfall. And this is one way that Steven can maybe win.
There's Hero's Downfall. Now, Gerry does have 2 copies of this card. Negate's going to counter that. Take a draw. Attack.
Those both have to be jumped.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like we'll go for the second downfall. Now, Steven has to keep countering these.
I think he's out of counters.
Oh, the other counters. Okay, the other card's not a counter.
Yeah. I don't have a great look at what that card is. It's not a counter. He would have countered it, I believe. Fleecebane Lion and land. I thought it was a dissolve for a while. I do not think that's the case anymore. Here come the attacks. And to go down to 1, I guess it's time to try to cast a Siege Rhino, right?
Yeah, put him on having a counter spell.
Yeah. You cast Siege Rhino, he has to have a counter spell.
It was Disdainful Stroke.
Got it.
That was the counter spell that he had. Why I couldn't hit the downfall with it. One more draw. Dig. All right.
Hey, he's got some fight left in him. Glare of Heresy among these cards. Devouring Light, too. But as you said a little earlier, Dig Through Time is no Sphinx's Revelation.
No, Sphinx's Revelation, you get to keep all of them. Yeah. And then you'd be at 10, which is the best. You'd just say, yeah, I'll take the hit. It's fine.
A lot of cards there. I don't know if there's a combination that can save Garcia now, though. That's the tough part. It's been an interesting back and forth match, but if you take anything away from this, it's really the pacing. I think on Gerry's side of how he used Tasker this game, that's been really impressive. Of just, he could have just dumped his hand multiple times, but it's really about how he chose to play his spells and just say, 1 spell, activate Tasker. 1 spell, activate Tasker. All right, this time 2 spells. And that is going to do it. Gerry Thompson's going to win this game and match here over Steven Garcia, 2-1. He is 5-1 with I Was on Aggro as Thompson. He's off to a great start here. No buys, but a long flight in from Seattle, off to a great start with his aggro deck.
Congratulations to Gerry. Well played there, especially the use of Tasker.
Yeah.
Really good. Nailed home game 3 for him.
It's funny because, he won the Magic Online Championship Series last weekend with this deck. He'd never played the deck before. But as he wrote in the article, it's like at some point when you keep losing to a deck and everyone keeps telling you this deck is good, you might as well give it a try. So when he played Avs on Aggro last weekend, it was his first time playing it. He wins the MOCS, and then I was talking to him on the flight, and I was like, what, are you going to play, I don't know, are you just going to play Avs on Aggro? And he's like, yeah, I think the deck's really good. So, Gerry has